Hey, folks, if you ever have felt stuck or that something was gnawing at you and you just could not make sense of it, but it kept gnawing at you, it didn't go away, or when it did go away, it was only for a short period of time. I promise you, this talk may be for you. It's not for everybody, but this one may be for you because there's so many of us find ourselves in the same position, having the same feeling, and we just don't know why. We just don't know what to do about it. Hey, I'm Sir Charles Carey, peak performance strategist, and like usual, I like to talk to you about things that relate to your life, things that are important with your everyday life as well as your professional life. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes we have to do what I call critical in depth analysis. That's something I wrote about in my book called Aligned by Design. No plug for the book, but it's just a fact. Many times, we are not doing what we need to do. And that's not necessarily a particular function, but it's more about a communication. We are not saying the things we need to say. So my question to you today is, what are you not saying, or what aren't you saying? Because no matter how you slice it, it all comes out the same. And there's sometimes a dissatisfaction we feel because we haven't opened up our mouths to express certain things, things that we want, things that we need, things that are important, and things that we not only want the answers for, but things that we deserve the answers for. And there lies the difference. And the sad part is that many of us, we will go our entire lives without getting those answers, without requesting those answers. And we live and die not knowing. And sometimes when the conversation comes up, we say, it's not that important. But yes, it is. You know it is. I know it is. But for some reason, we either afraid or not sure, maybe in some cases, how to go about it. Or we're living in that childlike syndrome mentally that prevents us from asking because they're older or they have a senior position, or we may not look like we're intelligent because we're asking a question that not too many ask. And if you've ever heard I think it's a statement people say when it comes to taking tests, the most important question you need the answer for is a question that you probably don't ask. Now, this guy over here or that person over there may not need the answer for that question, but it's important for you. And again, there lies the difference. You see, I have found that in relationships, obviously, this is where the ball gets dropped. And it's a doggone shame that in relationships, which is the key part of life, this is where things fall apart. I was told once when I was a kid that human beings only use 10% of the brain's capacity in a lifetime. Now, that's a very important statistic, but even if it's not right, it's not saying that you don't use your brain. We're talking about the potential, the possibility, the perspective, the purpose, even that part of the brain. I don't know which section of the brain that is, but the point is, if you don't use your brain fully to communicate what's important to you, how are you to know? And if you are being watched, I'm talking being watched by your children, people that maybe you have influence over, people in your place of worship, people in your work, people in your community, if you cannot open your mouth to communicate about things that are important and you just won't bring yourself to say it, not only what does that say about you, what does that do to those that are watching you? Because you may be a leader, but you may be a leader that is not living up to your full potential. And the sad thing is, if you have questions that need to be answered and you're not asking them, you're leading or potentially leading a whole rack of people, down the wrong aisle because they're following your leadership style and you're not being a complete leader. Now, I find this to be really important in family dynamics. I'm talking about father and son, father and daughter. I'm talking about siblings with one another. And sometimes with the sibling situation, it's about the hierarchy. I'm the oldest. So, don't question me, or I know better. And I think once you become an adult, that does not play the same or carry the same weight as it may have when you were younger, when you were teenagers, or when you were children. Because once you become an adult, there's certain things you're going to constantly learn and know as you go on. But if your sibling is older than you and you are both adults, well, basically, you're both on the same playing field. And there may be things you can obviously learn from an older sibling, but guess what? There are things that older sibling can learn from you. And if you are the older sibling, you have to be willing and open to humble yourself so that you can continue to learn and grow. There's nothing like homegrown, right? Homegrown can sometimes be the best. No, that's just siblings. Now, what about parents and children, right? I think a lot of times when our children become adults, they feel a certain, I don't know, je ne sais quoi, right? Whatever that is, where they can talk to you a certain way. Sometimes they still may respect you, but they want to level up. They want to curse around you. They want to, say certain things. And that may be okay, but it doesn't mean that just because you're an adult, that you know everything that you think you know. You still don't have the life experience that your parent has. And on the other side, the parent can still learn things from their child, even though their child is an adult now, because times are moving faster and the parent is getting older and times move different. Things are not the same. In business, they call it best practices. Every so often, things change in business. And it's the same thing with the dynamics of a parent and the dynamics of a child, especially when now they're both adults. So we have to understand that, again, a closed mouth never gets fed. So if there are things you want to know as the parent, you should be able to ask them. And if your child is not open to them, maybe it's their issue. And on the other end of the scope, because you're an adult and your parent is an adult, obviously, you want to say certain things, just face the fact. We can still learn from each other. Now, as it relates to, we talked about siblings, we talked about parents and the children. Obviously there's sibling rivalries and all that may play a part in it. But there's a certain dynamic with the psychology of why are you not saying what you really want to say? And that also includes asking questions. The questions that you ask are really important. Hey, sorry, I didn't realize that. Who's that on there? Let me see who we're talking to. Marco, I'm great. Thanks for joining the broadcast. But if you have any questions, Marco, please feel free to ask your questions. It's so good to see you. So again, as it relates to why aren't you saying anything, the dynamics that we have, sometimes again because of age, sometimes because of status, it can be really perplexed. But you have to be willing to ask or to say what it is that's important to you, because we are not mind readers of one another. Now, whether men are from Mars and women are from Venus, it really does not matter. There comes a time in life, and especially in relationships, that you have to be willing to communicate openly. And it may be challenging, depending whether it's finance, whether it's romance, whether it's the actual communication. But if you care enough or love enough, you should find a way to reach one another. Now, that's in a relationship dynamic. And I always say, why live your life as a lie? Why live under false pretenses? Ask the questions that you need to ask. Find a way of saying the things that are need to be said. And understand, there's nothing wrong with counseling if that's what's going to help you find your voice. But if you've been with someone beyond 5 years, you should have the ability of expressing yourself openly. And as I say in one of my books, it's so important to be open, honest, clear, and direct. That does not mean to be angry. Hey, Jackson, thanks for joining the broadcast. Ask your questions if you have questions. To be open, honest, clear, and direct is the most you can do to help yourself and to help the other person to prevent miscommunication. But if you are not open, honest, clear, and direct, you're going to find yourself in the same exact position. And this is what happens when we are not willing to take ourselves to the next level or challenge ourselves because we think either we've got it going on or we are, for some reason or another, we're afraid to express ourselves. And it's unfortunate because you should never be able to express what you really feel with someone that you've known for a while. Now, so far, I've only spoken about personal relationships, the family dynamic, or the spousal dynamic. But even in business, how can your business truly flourish if you're not speaking to your employees or your subordinates openly? If you don't allow them to communicate openly with you, you have to be willing to hear their complaints, hear their questions, so that the business can potentially get better. The business can grow. The business can show up like none other. But it cannot happen if no one is going to be able to use their voice honestly. If you, as the boss, the authority, if you're the expert, you have to be able to communicate openly so that things are understood, that what you want is clear, that your employees or subordinates are able to follow up and follow through accordingly. But you, if you are the leader of this business, you should also be able to learn from your employees, because many times being the boss or being the leader, you're doing so many things. There are a lot of things you're not dealing with because you're thinking on a multifaceted level, whereas their responsibility may not be the same as yours. And if you have a partner, oh man, it's critical. It doesn't matter that your expertise is in one area and their expertise is in another area. To challenge one another or to ask one another questions about what each other does is critical so that you can both get the benefits of growing your business. And if you're trying to reach more people, which most business wants to do, that's a strong perspective or a strong strategy, I'll say, to take so that you get the most out of what you're both doing. And it really doesn't matter what industry it is. It doesn't matter what the profession is and what your role is. You want to do the things that are important, that make you shine, and that give you the leverage maybe others simply do not have. So, we talked about personal. We talked about business. And there's so many more things that can be asked about business as it relates to expressing yourself and raising your voice and making your voice known. But here's something that you may not have considered. Excuse me. What questions, and write this down if you need to. In fact, hopefully you've been writing or taking notes, because I truly believe a short pen or pencil lasts longer than this thing here. Because once it's written in on paper and, as they say, written in stone, it's hard to ignore what's been documented. Documentation beats conversation anytime. Conversation relies on memory. Documentation You're taking notes as the thing happens. That's how you remember and can draw upon and use as a vital resource. So, what questions are you not asking yourself? Let that settle for a moment. What thing that you want to say, have said, or are curious about, but you truly haven't explored it? You haven't discovered why is it I don't fill in the blank. You haven't uncovered or unpacked why you fill in the blank. Are you not comfortable facing the fact that you have certain shortcomings and you need to do something about it, but yet you have not done anything about it? Understand that this life we live and lead has many facets. And depending on where you want to go and what it is that you want to do, yeah, it makes a difference to a degree, but regardless, you should always be growing, always be learning, always knowing. Because remember what I said about in the personal relationships, there's people watching you. Well, there are people watching you in every aspect of life, in your business life, your personal life, and your spiritual life. And how you live may lead someone to their success or their new horizon, whatever that may be. But it also may take someone down the wrong path or lead them to a dead end street. And I kind of feel like it's our responsibility to be the best versions of ourselves. And I'm not talking about popularity, and I'm not talking about dollars and cents. I'm just talking about the overall person, the personality of you, the version of you that speaks volumes to adding value to the lives of other people. And again, it does not matter what the industry, and it does not matter what the profession is. If you're living your best life to do all the things that you can do and other people are gaining from it, bingo, you have hit the nail on the head. You are doing the thing you're supposed to do. And again, if you're in business and you're earning your keep, you're making money from doing this, okay, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm sure there will be times when you do it where it's not about dollars and cents. It's just simply about helping and adding value to the lives of other people because you simply can, because you've got life experience, because you know better. No matter what it is, you know how a thing is supposed to happen. It does not mean that that is the only way to get results, but it's probably a good way if you've gone down that path and you've had that experience, and now you're able to share with other people, again, for a fee or not for a fee, because that's what people need. They need to know how of a thing. They need to know why they're doing a certain thing or what value it's going to provide to them, how it's going to help them not only assess themselves, but afford them the opportunity of moving forward in life. So, as I usually say, a lot of people are watching this right now. You may not be subscribers, but I would like to encourage you to subscribe. It helps the channel, helps us help other people and reach other people. So please like, share it, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing more content like this. And whatever questions you have, please feel free to ask those questions, right? Just like the topic, right? What are you not saying, or what aren't you saying? I want you to check me, challenge me, so that I can prove that what I'm saying makes sense and it actually can help others. And if you're anything like me, you'll check out one of our webinars, which I think is so instrumental, especially for those that are entrepreneurs. 5 reasons your dreams never see the light of day. Radiate the brain and change the game. We'll see you on the next one.